On a tranquil morning, President Ibrahim Traoré was engrossed in crucial state documents within the quiet confines of his office. The door opened, and his assistant entered, a weighty, thick envelope held in his hand. This wasn't routine mail. It bore strange, unfamiliar symbols, marking it as distinct. "Mr. President," the assistant announced, extending the peculiar package. "This just arrived. It's from North Korea." Traoré's brow lifted in surprise. North Korea? He'd never had contact with them before. Slowly, his fingers broke the seal. Inside lay a letter penned in a neat, forceful hand. It was from none other than Kim Jong Un, the leader of North Korea. As he scanned the contents, Traoré was taken aback. The letter commenced with words of unexpected admiration. "Dear President Traoré," it began, "I have observed your ascent with profound interest. You are more than a mere leader. You are a beacon of strength and dignity for the entirety of Africa. In this era, where the West endeavors to dominate and fracture nations, you have remained steadfast, resisting their impositions. I commend your bravery and resolve." Traoré paused. Kim Jong Un, the head of North Korea, admired him? He reread the words, attempting to grasp their full implication. The letter continued. "I believe Burkina Faso, under your guidance, stands as a brilliant exemplar for the African continent. Your endeavors to combat foreign subjugation and your aspiration for sovereignty are truly inspiring. You are a genuine leader, and North Korea desires to extend our support in your pursuit of power and stability. We recognize a kindred spirit within you. Together, we can shatter the shackles imposed by the West." This correspondence was far more than a simple message. It was in proposition. Kim Jong Un was offering his assistance. He pledged military aid, cutting-edge technology, and help in solidifying Burkina Faso's independence. A confluence of feelings washed over Traoré. He felt honored that someone of Kim Jong-un's stature saw him as an ally, yet simultaneously, apprehension crept in. What would North Korea demand in return? What ramifications would this have for his nation? The letter concluded with a potent declaration. "Should you accept our aid, we will stand by your side in the struggle for Africa's future. The West will not dictate terms to us. Not any longer. I am confident that united, we can forge a new trajectory for Africa and the world. I anticipate your response." Traoré leaned back, the letter still clutched in his grasp. The weight of Kim Jong-un's words settled heavily upon him. Could this man be trusted? Was this the long-awaited opportunity to emancipate Burkina Faso from the dominion of Western powers? Or was it merely another snare? One certainty remained. His life and the destiny of Burkina Faso were poised for irrevocable change. A few days elapsed before a tall figure in a crisp suit arrived at the presidential palace in Ouagadougou. He introduced himself as an envoy dispatched from North Korea to confer with President Ibrahim Traoré. The man exuded calm, yet an undercurrent of intensity about him unsettled Traoré. He spoke with quiet assurance, as if bearing the burden of historical consequence. "I carry a message from Kim Jong Un," the envoy stated. "He holds your leadership and vision for Burkina Faso in high esteem. He believes that collectively we can forge a robust, autonomous future unburdened by external control." Traoré listened intently, his mind racing. Was this genuinely an opportunity to break free from Western influence, or was he being ensnared in a perilous gamble? The envoy pressed on. "Kim Jong-un perceives the strength inherent in your leadership. He recognizes that the world is observing you. This is precisely why North Korea is offering you more than just backing. We are presenting military assistance, technology to propel your nation forward, an alliance that will empower you to confront any force seeking to undermine you." Traoré's heartbeat quickened. The offer was alluring, but it felt like a high-stakes gamble. Burkina Faso had consistently grappled with foreign meddling. The West kept a watchful eye on his country, and now North Korea was extending a helping hand. But what compensation would they expect? What were the genuine repercussions of accepting this aid? "Your country's fate rests in your hands," the envoy declared, his gaze locked onto Traoré. "The West is already formulating strategies to depose you, and they will endeavor to crush Burkina Faso's independence. But North Korea will be your ally. Come what may, we will furnish the resources and protection requisite to defend your populace." Traoré settled deeper into his chair, absorbing the gravity of the statements. The stakes had never been higher. He understood the West was scrutinizing his every move and would not permit him to make this choice without repercussions. Yet, the prospect of liberation from their oversight, of being able to govern Burkina Faso without apprehension, was potent. "I comprehend the risks," Traoré finally articulated, his voice steady. "But what do you demand of me in return? What does North Korea seek from Burkina Faso?" The envoy curved his lips into a smile, but was a cool one, hinting at a deeper motive. "We request nothing save your allegiance," he replied. "In exchange, we shall stand with you against the West, against any powers that attempt to dismantle your country. Together, we can inaugurate a new world order, a world where African nations are not dictated by foreign powers." His words lingered in the air, a blend of promise and veiled threat. Traoré recognized this transcended Burkina Faso. It concerned Africa, a stand against a legacy of exploitation and control. But the pivotal question persisted. Could he place his trust in Kim Jong Un? And if he did, what sort of future was he stepping into? As the envoy departed, Traoré gazed out the window, lost in contemplation. Kim Jong Un's letter had been merely the prelude. Now, he confronted a choice that could reshape the trajectory of history for Burkina Faso and for himself. Could he afford to decline such a formidable offer? Or would he jeopardize everything to champion the independence he had always envisioned? The future remained shrouded in uncertainty, yet one element was undeniable. Whatever path he chose would define his legacy. Days elapsed, and the pressure on President Ibrahim Traoré intensified. Kim Jong Un's offer remained etched in his thoughts, and every decision seemed to circle back to that critical question. Should he embrace North Korea's assistance, or were the consequences too profound? The United States had not remained passive. A high-ranking U.S. official, an envoy named Robert Mitchell, arrived in Burkina Faso without prior announcement. He requested a private audience with Traoré. When they met in the presidential palace, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Mitchell was renowned for his acute intellect and even sharper tactics. He wasted no time addressing the core issue. "President Traoré," Mitchell stated, his tone calm yet resolute, "we are apprised of your discussions with North Korea. I wish to articulate unequivocally that should you persist down this path, the repercussions for Burkina Faso will be severe. The United States will not remain idle while a leader with ties to North Korea destabilizes Africa." Traoré felt a tightening knot in his stomach. The threats had commenced. He had anticipated this, but hearing it directly from the U.S. rendered it visceral, immediate. "You are attempting to exert control over us," Traoré responded quietly, yet with a force that surprised even himself. "Africa has endured long enough under your dominion. We aspire to stand autonomously, free from foreign influence." Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "You do not grasp the full ramifications of your actions, do you? The West will isolate Burkina Faso. Trade agreements, aid, and diplomatic relationships will evaporate. And if you persist with this alliance with North Korea, your government will confront internal turmoil. We will ensure it." Traoré fixed his gaze on the U.S. envoy, weighing his options. He had known this moment would arrive, but hearing Mitchell's threats merely amplified the stakes. The U.S. possessed a capacity to cripple Burkina Faso economically. Yet, Traoré couldn't disregard Kim Jong Un's pledge. North Korea's backing could signify survival, but what price would he ultimately pay for that assistance? "We are not intimidated by your threats," Traoré finally declared. "Burkina Faso will not be dictated to by anyone." Mitchell did not immediately reply. Instead, he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You believe this is solely about power, don't you? It concerns something far more substantial. Security. The West desires stability. And if you decline to align with us, you will cultivate a dangerous adversary. Do not permit your pride to dismantle your country." His words hung heavy in the air. Traoré felt their weight, but deep within, he recognized he could not retreat. His populace had elected him to lead them, not to yield to foreign powers. As Mitchell exited the palace, Traoré was left alone with his thoughts. The pressure felt stifling. He had always believed Africa deserved liberty. But now, The reality of confronting the world's most formidable nations appeared more formidable than ever. That night, Traoré sat at his office, once more examining the letter from Kim Jong Un, the promise of military backing, the assurance of protection from the West. It was all there, but was he truly prepared to confront the wrath of the U.S. and other Western powers? As he contemplated the letter, his phone rang. It was his foreign minister, calling with urgency. "Mr. President," the voice on the other end reported, "we have just intercepted intelligence. There are whispers, genuine threats. The U.S. is devising something beyond mere sanctions. We believe forces within Burkina Faso are prepared to act. A coup may be imminent." Traoré's heart pounded. He had been aware his position was precarious, but now the peril was tangible. The West wasn't just issuing threats. They were actively taking measures. The prospect of forfeiting control of his nation, of everything he had labored for, was agonizing. He glanced down at Kim Jong Un's letter. Could he rely on it? Could he trust North Korea to safeguard him when the global community seemed to be turning against him? His phone vibrated again. It was a message from his closest confidant. "President," it read, "the people stand with you. We can remain resilient, but you must decide swiftly. The U.S. will not wait indefinitely." Traoré inhaled deeply and gazed out the window. The sun was setting, casting an orange luminescence over the metropolis. The future of Burkina Faso rested in his hands, and whatever resolution he reached would not only impact his country, but would also convey a message to the world. In that moment, Traoré reached a firm decision. He could not yield now. He would not be manipulated. And irrespective of the threats, regardless of the cost, he would elect the path of independence. It was time to stand tall and face whatever trials lay ahead. The subsequent days felt like a tempest gathering on the horizon. Ibrahim Traoré knew his decision to spurn the United States and pursue an alliance with North Korea had unleashed a chain of events beyond his immediate command. Every step he took seemed to plunge him deeper into a labyrinth of danger, yet he remained resolute. The destiny of Burkina Faso and his own legacy hinged on his next move. Late one evening, as Traoré sat in his office reviewing documents, a sharp rap on the door fractured his focus. His most trusted advisor, General Ouedraogo, entered, his face etched with concern. "Mr. President," the general began, "we have unearthed some deeply unsettling intelligence. We have uncovered information suggesting that high-ranking officers within our own military are plotting your betrayal. There are murmurs of a coup in development." Traoré's blood ran cold. A coup originating from within his own government? He had always been aware that his decisions would cultivate adversaries, but never in his wildest imaginings did he conceive that the treachery would stem from his own people. He had faith in his military. They had fought alongside him for the future of Burkina Faso. Who was behind this? Traoré demanded, his voice steady despite the simmering anger within him. "We have pinpointed a faction of generals who have engaged in clandestine discussions with foreign powers, most likely with the U.S., General Ouedraogo explained. "They believe they can remove you and reinstate the former order, one that would acquiesce to Western influence." Traoré clenched his fists. The West had always perceived him as a menace, but now it was unequivocally clear they were prepared to resort to any means necessary to eliminate him. He reflected on the commitments made by Kim Jong Un, the assistance North Korea had proffered, and protection he could potentially rely upon. "We cannot permit this to occur," Traoré declared, rising from his desk. "Prepare for action. We will expose the traitors before they can execute their scheme." As the general departed to put the plan into effect, Traoré's thoughts raced. The coup was not merely a political menace. It constituted a direct affront to his authority and to everything he had strived to achieve. The Western powers were exploiting their influence to destabilize his government, mirroring their actions with numerous African leaders before him. But this time, things would unfold differently. Traoré refused to let Burkina Faso succumb to the manipulation of foreign entities. The following morning, Traoré addressed his nation. His words were firm and unwavering. "Fellow citizens of Burkina Faso," he commenced, his voice resonating with strength, "our nation confronts a formidable challenge. There are individuals within our own government who seek to betray us, to surrender our sovereignty to the powers that have long subjugated us. But we shall not permit this to come to pass. We will stand united, stronger than ever, and safeguard our liberty. No force, whether internal or external, will divest us of the hard-won independence we have forged. The speech resonated profoundly with the populace. The nation was already on edge due to the threats from foreign powers, and Traoré words ignited a renewed sense of cohesion and determination. But even as he spoke, he understood the conflict was far from concluded. Later that day, Traoré was in a secure meeting room with his most trusted commanders, preparing to act. The generals implicated in the coup plot were being apprehended. The consensus was to move swiftly before they could amass further support or instigate pandemonium. Traoré had consistently been a man of action, and this juncture demanded it. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was an encrypted call from Kim Jong Un's envoy. President Traoré, the voice stated, "We have received intelligence indicating that the U.S. is planning a covert operation to destabilize your government. They are not merely plotting your removal, but are aiming to ensure no African leader dares to defy the West again." Traoré's heart pounded. This was the moment. The full magnitude of the impending struggle had just been laid bare. But Kim Jong Un's envoy had more to say. "You are not solitary in this fight. North Korea will support you, precisely as we committed. We have already deployed resources to guarantee your safety. The U.S. will not prevail." Traoré leaned back in his chair, experiencing a peculiar blend of relief and trepidation. North Korea was honoring its promise and standing by him. However, the realization that the West was prepared to go to such extremes to remove him was sobering. This had transcended a mere political skirmish. It was a battle for his very existence. As Traoré concluded the call, he surveyed the room, his gaze sweeping over his loyal commanders. They had endured numerous trials together, and now they confronted the most significant test of all. His adversaries were both within and beyond the country's borders, but he knew that standing firm was the only viable path forward. "Prepare for every eventuality," he instructed his generals. "This will be the struggle of our lives. We will defend Burkina Faso with every fiber of our being." In the ensuing hours, Traoré's government would act decisively. The traitors within the military would be neutralized. But the authentic battle was just commencing. The U.S. would not easily yield, nor would Kim Jong Un. The world watched, and Burkina Faso's destiny hung precariously in the balance. Traoré had made his selection. Now, it was time to fight for his nation and for the future of Africa. The tension in Burkina Faso had reached its zenith. The military was on high alert, and President Ibrahim Traoré had issued a directive for suspected conspirators to be apprehended. Yet, the conflict extended beyond the physical realm. It was a struggle of intellects, of authority, and of the future. The U.S. and its allies observed intently, and Traoré understood that the coming days would be decisive. The thoroughfares of Ouagadougou were taut yet serene as people anxiously awaited updates on the unfolding situation. Traoré's address had galvanized his nation, but the strain was escalating, and the future remained indeterminate. The instigators of the military coup had been detained, but they were merely pawns in a considerably larger scheme. As dusk descended, Traoré sat in his office reviewing reports, but his thoughts consistently drifted back to the letter from Kim Jong Un. The pledges of support now felt more critical than ever. North Korea had remained true to its word, dispatching resources and military advisors to bolster the stability of his administration. The message was unequivocal. The West would spare no effort to crush Burkina Faso's independence. But with Kim Jong Un's backing, Traoré might possess the resilience to remain steadfast. Yet, even as he clung to the prospect of North Korea's aid, the reality of the situation was becoming starkly apparent. His government was encircled by adversaries on all fronts. Western powers had already initiated sanctions, and the U.S. had launched a clandestine campaign to isolate Burkina Faso diplomatically. Worse still, whispers of another coup attempt disseminated through the ranks. Some of his closest allies now harbored fears that his alliance with North Korea had been taken too far. Some dreaded that defying the U.S. might precipitate conflict, while others felt betrayed by the path he had chosen. In the early hours of the morning, Traoré received another encrypted communication, this time from his most trusted military advisor, General Ouedraogo. "Mr. President." Ouedraogo's voice was strained, We have just intercepted communications from foreign intelligence. The coup conspiracy wasn't solely aimed at removing you from power. It's far more extensive. The U.S. is mobilizing its regional allies to destabilize Burkina Faso, and we have received intelligence that they intend to orchestrate a full-scale intervention. This isn't merely about one individual. It's about extinguishing resistance to Western dominance across Africa. Traoré's heart sank. He had always known that defying the West entailed risks, but the magnitude of the operation surpassed his worst apprehensions. They were not merely targeting him. They were targeting everything he symbolized, everything his people had fought for. His resolve was tested in that moment. "I knew it wouldn't be facile," Traoré stated, his voice hardening. "But I am not receding. We must brace for every contingency." As the situation escalated, Traoré realized that the sole means of survival lay in acting decisively. The U.S. and its allies were already attempting to turn the tide against him, but he still held the advantage in one crucial area: his people. That night, he resolved to address the nation once more. This time, his address would be different. It would not just be a declaration of defiance. It would be a call to mobilize. The speech was broadcast live across the nation. Traoré stood before a throng of supporters, his countenance grave but resolute. "My fellow citizens," he commenced, "we stand at a critical juncture in our history. Burkina Faso has perpetually been a nation embodying strength, courage, and independence. We have confronted numerous challenges. And now, we face one of the greatest trials of our lives. The powers that have sought to control us for so long are now making their ultimate attempt to extinguish our liberty." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the multitude. "But we will not be intimidated. We will not permit the West to dictate our future. Together, fortified by the resilience of our populace and the backing of our allies, we will stand resolute. We will contend for our inherent right to determine our own destiny. The world may attempt to silence us, but they will not succeed. We are Burkina Faso, and we will never surrender." The crowd erupted in jubilant cheers, and Traoré could feel the potent resolve of his people. It was a moment of unity, of collective pride. His people believed in him, and that conviction would serve as their weapon against the forces striving to tear their nation asunder. However, even as the populace rallied behind him, Traoré knew the true confrontation still lay ahead. The U.S. and its allies would not retreat, and the situation had the potential to escalate into a full-blown conflict. But one truth was crystal clear. No matter the outcome, he would not yield without a fight. The words were reassuring, but Traoré understood the authentic test was yet to unfold. The forthcoming days would determine whether Burkina Faso would retain its freedom or succumb to the sway of foreign powers. But one thing was undeniable. Ibrahim Traoré would battle until his very last breath for his country, for his people, and for the future of Africa. For Traoré, this transcended a mere military triumph. It symbolized Africa's intrinsic strength and determination. His decision to confront the world's most potent nations had proven correct. The struggle was not entirely over, but for the first time, Traoré could discern a path forward, one where Africa could finally stand autonomously. In the days that followed, Traoré received messages of solidarity from leaders globally. Kim Jong Un reiterated his commitment to Burkina Faso's independence, and even some Western nations began to reconsider their approach to African leadership. The world had witnessed the emergence of a new force from the core of Africa. President Ibrahim Traoré had not only endured the most significant challenge of his life, he had emerged victorious. His legacy was cemented, and Burkina Faso's future, while still uncertain, now held promise and potential. He had stood firm in the face of overwhelming adversity, and in doing so, he had granted Africa a formidable voice on the global stage. The fight for independence was far from over, but armed with the courage of his people and the strength of his convictions, Traoré had demonstrated that Africa was no longer willing to be marginalized. Burkina Faso had fought for its liberty and prevailed.